In today's video, I'd just like to explain one of the topics that I didn't really go into that much today in class, and that's the topic of percentiles. If you look at your notes on page 5, you'll see this bell curve. I colored mine in to show you that within one standard deviation of the mean, there's about 68%. If you add up those percentages, you get 68.2%. The data is between -1 and 1 standard deviation from the mean. And then if you go further on out, within 2 standard deviations of the mean, if you add up those percentages, you'll get 95.4%. And then if you go all the way out to the 3 standard deviations below the mean to 3 standard deviations above the mean, you'll get 99.8%, which is almost all of the data will be within that. So that was today's lesson in class, and what I want to talk about now is what percentile means. If you look up here, it tells you that the percentile value, we're going to write these below the bell curve, but the percentile is the percent of the total frequency scored at or below that measure. In other words, if we start adding up the percentages from the leftmost percentage, which is 0.1%, and if we have a score that is perhaps at 1 standard deviation below the mean, the percentile will be all of these percentages added up until you get to that point. So underneath here, we're going to just take, our calculators. Well, I'm going to take mine anyways, and you can if you want, and put the percentile values underneath each one of these. In other words, we're just going to add up these percentages. So right here, if the score is 3 standard deviations below the mean, it will be at the 0.1 percentile. And then if you add 0.5 to that, you'll get to the 0.6 percentile. And now if you add 1.7 to 0.6, you'll get 2 standard deviations below the mean, and that will be at the 2.3 percentile. And then 2.3 plus 4.4, add another percentage onto that, and you'll get 6.7 percentile. Add 9.2 to that, and you'll get the 15.9, or about the 16th percentile. Now we're going to add 15 to that, and you'll get to 30.9. Excuse me. And then if you add 19.1 to that, we should be up to the 50th percentile, and we are. So any score that is average will be at the 50th percentile. And now we're just going to continue to add these percentages beyond the 50th. So if you add another 19.1 to that, you'll be at the 69.1st percentile. Adding 9.2 to that, you'll be at the 78.3 percentile. Oops, I made a mistake. Good thing I write in pencil, because we were supposed to add 15. Will be at the 84.1st percentile for 1 standard deviation above. And now we can add the 9.2 to that, and we'll be at 1.5 standard deviations above the mean, 93.3rd percentile. And then we're going to add 4.4 to that, and you'll be at the 97.7th percentile. Add 1.7 to that, and we'll be at the 99.4 percentile. Add 0.5 to that, and we'll be at the 99.9 percentile, and then all the way up is 100%. So this covers 100% of the data. So what that really means is, if you use my example that I gave you in class, that the average length of a baby is 20 inches, and if a baby is born and it happens to be 22 inches long, which was 1 standard deviation above, that baby would be at the 84.1st percentile for height. If the baby weighed or was 16 inches long. 16 is 2 standard deviations below the mean of 20. So that baby being 16 inches long will be at the 2.3rd percentile, which just means that 2.3% of all of the babies should be less than 16 inches long. So remember, percentile just means add from the leftmost percentage all the way up until you get to the number that you're looking for, whether it's inches or whatever. So some of the questions on on some of the later pages has to do with percentile. So if you come back to this page 5, if you get a percentile question, you can just take a look at these percentiles and use them if you want to. But make sure you can get these on your own, because when I give you a test or quiz, I'll give you a bell curve, but it won't have these numbers filled in. You'll have to do that yourself if you need to. Have a great night.